Now, if you're a whapper, you may have seen this before. If you're not, then hopefully it will help. But I do talk about this a lot because business is really just a numbers game at the end of the day. And so what we're going to talk about for the next half an hour or so is how an average person with average skills, knowledge, ambition, money, and time can become rather darn wealthy. Now, it's not wealthy within 2 minutes or within a year, but with business, it's a 5 to 10 year play, and that's where you really should start. Oh, can you hear me, folks? The screen is frozen.
Yeah.
Okay, you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to ignore the Facebook one then. Basically, with business, it's a 5 to 10 year play, and a lot of people. Oh my lord. Okay. I'm just going to mute everyone. This is ridiculous. If you have a legitimate question, please unmute yourself and ask, but I'm just going to have to mute everyone here. So I'll start again. So business is really a 5 to 10 year play, and a lot of people that get into business, setting up a side hustle or whatever, they're expecting to make profits, like within the first few months or get really profitable in the first year. And if that is you, or if you've been doing that, you're setting yourself up for failure. So basically, the thing that you really have to understand is especially for startups, you need to sell first, source later. I cannot stress how many times I've seen people fail their businesses, myself included back in the early years, by going about business the wrong way. So here's what people do. They go, okay, I've got an idea, I'm going to do this as a business. And then they go out and spend loads of money on shit they don't need. Okay, they go out and buy all the stock. They go and buy a website. They go and buy a new computer for their company. They go and do X, Y, Z, and all they're doing is what I call sharpening the pencil. They're not actually doing anything. They get all the stationery, the letterheads, they incorporate the company like straight away, and it's like doing all the wrong things at the wrong time. And again, I did this myself like 10, 12 years ago, so I'm speaking with hindsight here. And so with a startup, you have two distinct phases. You have pre-POC and post-POC. So pre-POC is pre-proof of concept, and post-POC is post-proof of concept. Pretty simple, right? So basically, when you're pre-POC, so pre-proof of concept, you have an idea, you haven't tested it yet, you have no idea if it's going to make money and if people actually like your product. Remember, you, the business owner, are normally the one that's really passionate and you probably love your business or your new business idea, but you may not be your best customer. And even though you may have all the passion in the world for your product or whatever you're offering, that message and that desire, that sort of love for the product can get lost in translation, because it's really hard for a business owner to project your love for your product to other people, and it's the messaging and positioning which is also really hard. Now, your post-POC, when you have a proper business, so when that side hustle is now actually bringing in profits or revenue, and you're like, okay, this is actually getting traction here, then your post-POC, then you need to formalize everything, incorporate the business depending on your revenue and all sorts of other stuff. So if we go back to the screen here, basically, starting at 12, I wish. So you have to sell first and source later. So an example of this is, let's say you had a widget and you've got this machine, okay, and you want to take this machine, it could be anything from hot tubs, it could be whatever. What a lot of people do, they get the hot tub or the whatever kit or equipment it is, and then they think, oh, all I need is a website and this kit and I'm sorted. But remember, setting up a website is like, these days, it's like setting up a lemonade stand in the middle of the Sahara Desert. No one knows you're there. They can't find you, and no one gives a shit. Remember, WIFM is all that people are thinking about these days. What's in it for me? And so you gotta go about things differently. So what you need to do is do some sort of pre-launch where you basically go out and try and sell. And that's the thing that most people are completely oblivious about when getting into business. They completely forget that they actually need to sell stuff. That's what a business is. You're selling a service, you're selling a product, you're selling something that gives value to your end user. And so what happens is the reason so many startups fail is because they waste thousands of pounds on bollocks they don't need, and they realise they don't know how to get a customer. So you need to focus on selling first. So get a whole bunch of people on the waiting list first, or get a whole bunch of people paying a little deposit first. And then when you have enough people on your waiting list or that paid a deposit, and you're like, okay, actually, I've got my first couple of weeks of clients here, then you go and source the product or the widget or whatever later. And in your pre-launch campaign, you can even say, hey, we're launching in 2 months' time on the 1st of, whatever month. Get a discount in here now, blah. And then you do it that way. And I think I mentioned the other day that when I set up Float Norwich, so Float Norwich, by the way, is like the most random business I have at the moment, and I shouldn't really have it. It's completely incongruent to my business group. Like, most of my businesses are pretty similar. They're all congruent, they all help each other. But Float Norwich is like the ugly black sheep, which I'm actually trying to sell. But yeah, so these are expensive pods. And so, long story short, this is a bricks and mortar type business where, it's an actual building in Norwich and people have to go there. And so, long story short, I built up a waiting list of 5,000 people. And I did 50% discounts and all sorts of different discounts. And so, by the time I launched, a couple of months later, 2 to 3 months later, in the first 5 days, we generated 25 grand in sales. In the first 5 days. And so that's how you launch a new startup. You need to basically know that you're going to make profit. Whereas most people, they go, okay, I'm open, and now what? Like, my very first business was an aviation company, because I left the Air Force and I was like, okay, the only skill I have is flying helicopters here. So I'll set up Fly Siam Aviation Services. Bit cheesy, and it was wedding helicopter flights and helicopter charters, and I set everything up. I've got the website, everything, brochures, leaflets, and I sat back waiting for the phone call for the phone to ring, and it never rang because I didn't get out there. I didn't do any selling. No one knew about me. So yeah, you need to sell first, source later. Now let's get back on track. Let's assume that failure loves you. Great. Let's say Murphy's Law loves you just like it loves me. This just means that you need to implement the numbers game, because that's all business is. You have to basically... it's very much like trading. Not that this will be a good analogy, but with trading, trading obviously is a numbers game, but you have a strategy and you have to implement it religiously until you get a good data set. So until you have a data set of at least 100 trades in a year's worth of trading, and then you can analyze the system and tweak things, etc. And business is the same, and so you just got to keep on doing good practices but consistently, and it'll go well as long as your numbers are correct. And we will go through the numbers because a lot of people don't know how to calculate the numbers. And again, if you're a whapper, you would have seen me do this plenty of times, but I've got to drum it in because I still. Even now, I'm seeing some whappers going around about setting up their business in the wrong way, and I just know it's going to lead to pain. Now, pain's not necessarily bad, but yeah. So to begin with, if you're fresh into business, you've never done it before, you need to be prepared that your first 3 to 5 businesses will fail. Now, when I say projects is even better. So here's the thing: always say that you're setting up a new project, not a business. There's just less pressure, less weight on your shoulders, and projects come and go. And then hopefully one of your projects will turn into a business. But you got to expect your first 3 to 5 businesses to fail. So for me, I think I failed the first 3 projects I did. Fly Siam Aviation Services was one of them. I set up another business called bankshatethiswebsite.com. That didn't go well. And I can't remember the others, but yeah, I flopped a whole bunch of different businesses, and it's to be expected. Okay, you cannot expect to enter the world of business with zero skills and knowledge and experience and think that you're going to nail it on your first business. Watching Dragon's Den and Shark Tank are like the worst. Honestly, it's entertainment, but a lot of people treat it as like business education, but it's not. It just teaches so many bad habits, Dragon's Den. It teaches that, people can have an idea, go and get a pitch, and exit a room with loads of money, but it doesn't work like that. And for every new startup that does get funding, Series A funding, or round one funding, like there's oodles, thousands and thousands of businesses that don't. So again, I guess it's a bit like survivorship bias. That's what you're seeing on TV. So assuming, before we go into this bit, so I'm assuming that you are an average person, you have a job, you're doing a 9 to 5 or 8 to 6, you've got a family, so let's say you're just busy. You're just, like, everyone is generally busy, okay? If you're an average person, you've got a job, and let's say you've got a family, wife and 2 kids, or husband and 2 kids, etc. So from like 7 in the morning till 6 at night, you're basically getting ready to working, and then coming home to work. Then you're getting home, you've got dinner, you've got to help put the kids to bed, etc. So really, all your day is pretty packed, right? From 7 in the morning till, let's say, 8 at night. Okay, so let's say you're leading a busy life. Well, what are you doing from 8 p.m. till midnight? Most of the time, it's dicking around watching Netflix, which is fine. I do that myself. I love it. But this is where the incongruence comes in. A lot of people say, "Oh, I want this," but then they're not prepared to, allocate or prioritize stuff. And so ultimately, if you're setting up a new project, you will need to spend a few hours a day on it. To the point where when I had a shitty admin job just after I left the Air Force and I couldn't get any old jobs, I was known as Toilet Boy. Because what happened is that every time the fag people, as in the people that smoked cigarettes, went outside for a 5-minute fag, I went to the toilet for 5 minutes. But all I was doing is I was sitting in the cubicle on my phone, sending out emails, invoices. I was working on my business. So pretty much like 5 minutes every hour throughout the day, during all my lunch breaks and whatever breaks, I was just working on my little side hustle. And then when I got home, I was working on my side hustle from, call it 8 p.m. till midnight. And then eventually, after 6 months of doing that, my side hustle was making enough money that I could just quit that shitty job I had, which I really didn't like. So when I hear people, "Oh, time is, I haven't got enough time," it's just a bullshit excuse. You're bullshitting yourself, not me. You're bullshitting yourself. What you're lacking is prioritization and the real want. So assuming you fail a business twice a year, so you're going to set up a new project, give it 6 months, and you fail twice a year, and let's say you're spending £1,000 each project. Well, you've blown £4,000 over 2 years. Oh well, it's expected. I mean, you're getting into business. There's always that risk to reward seesaw that you got to balance. And as we said, if you're starting out, you got to expect to fail, the first 3 to 5 businesses. So in this case, let's say you've lost £4,000 and 2 years worth of time. Okay, that's fine. You have to, again, this is one of the costs of business. It's not just money; it's also time. But it's not really wasted, because you will have, like, over that 2-year period, you will have learned stuff. You would have learned what doesn't work, what works, etc. And every single time you would have picked something new. And this is why, like, my mantra is do, fail, learn, and pivot until you hit your goals. So you just got to do, fail, learn, pivot as fast as you've ever done in your life. But let's talk about lucky number 5. So you failed the first 4 businesses and 2 years of learning and not getting any traction. Let's now focus on your first business that will do averagely well. Okay, and that's the key here. I'm just going to be just average success. And in my book, average success for a new business is something where you set up a business which is taking home, as in take home, between 3 to 5k per month. Okay, that's just average success. So let's just call it on the top side. Let's say 60k a year take home. Okay, now, by the way, 60k. So this is the interesting thing here. So 60k a year take home is a lot different than a 60 grand a year salary. So, put it this way, if you go to the UK salary calculator, click that, take home calculator, and then try and work out a salary where you're actually taking home 60 grand a year. You're looking at something like a salary of, is it about 110k? Let's have a look. Take home 70. You're sort of looking about 100k a year, I think. Oops. Close to that. 95 to, I guess 95 to 100k a year. Yeah, something like that. So maybe it's 90. Let's try 90. Yeah. So if you have a business that's taking home 5 grand a month as an into your bank account, that's equivalent of having a salary of 90 grand a year in a job. And guess what? It's way easier getting a business to chuck home 5 grand a month into your account than getting a job that pays 90 grand a year. And bearing in mind, if you end up with a job that's paying 90 grand a year, you're going to end up with all sorts of responsibilities, and you won't be able to control much because it won't be your business. And so this is what I'm talking about with sort of average success. Now, what we need to talk about, let's just go sideways for a moment here. It's always worth getting into industries or things that have as much probability of winning or more probability of winning than failing. So this is why I tend to always gravitate back to, getting something which is a subscription-based or a payment plan-based business. And ideally not equipment-based businesses. I've had so much trouble with equipment-based businesses, it's ridiculous. And I've not just had one, I've had multiple businesses which are equipment-based, and it's just the biggest pain in the arse ever. Kit breaks, kit doesn't work, it's just a pain. So just avoid that. So try and do service-based businesses, it's much easier. And yeah, let's just not narrow it too far down. Obviously, get into sectors which are not dying. So for example, trying to open up like a travel company right now, travel concierge business is probably not the best idea. Now, yes, travel will probably pick up over the next few years, but at the moment it's a pretty tough business model to do. Just like setting up a coffee shop right now, I think maybe alright with things potentially opening up, but it's tough. Again, there's too many downsides. So really, you need to try and think of a business which is lockdown proof. Okay? That's the thing. I mean, there's precedence here. We're going to be locked up again, most likely in winter, despite what they say. So try and come up with a business which is lockdown proof. And yeah. And so when you're doing this, so you'll probably end up with some sort of service-based business, and the model is pretty much the same. So if I'm just going to move some stuff, move this around, and I just want to go into the numbers. Now, obviously let's move it all the way down here. Zoom back into 100%. Here we go. Now, this is a typical model. Some people call it a funnel or a client attraction journey, but whatever you want to call it, or whatever people don't like calling it, it's all the same thing, really. So let's just do it like this. So I guess it looks a bit like a funnel or a bucket, but you have to do what works. And as much as a lot of people knock this, it really does work. So what you need is some sort of freebie, okay? So just like when you're walking down the street and someone will be giving out samples of a cupcake, etc., they're just giving out freebies, just like in a supermarket. Well, every business needs some sort of freebie, something free, high value to them, free for you, and free, but also low cost or free for yourself to give. Now, doing the whole, hey, download this PDF, it's been done to death. Everyone, I think, is bored these days of downloading a free ebook or whatever. So you've got to think a little bit differently to that. So, hell, this freebie could just be a video. It could just be like something that, whatever it's doing, it needs to solve a problem very quickly, okay? It needs to be something that's easily digestible. And then typically, it'll lead into some sort of trial. I'm assuming that you're doing some sort of service-based business here. And then the trial will then lead into your intro product, whatever that service is. Now, even if it is a service, like it could be graphic design or whatever, you need to productize your business. So I'm just going to do a quick sidestep here. So the thing that really pisses me off with a lot of trying to hire a service-based business or freelancer these days is just like, you can never get a clear answer. Like, I'm trying to hire a handyman at the moment or something like that, and you'll never get a price list on their websites, because obviously it depends. And I understand, builders like to come around and look at your house and quote you up, or web designers like to quote up, they want to hear your spec and then blah blah blah, and I get that. But these days people have low attention spans, and so I don't want to submit a form and wait for someone to call me or email me. I want quick answers now. So if you're someone like that, let's say it's a graphic designer, I don't know, let's say you're a graphic designer, you need to productize your stuff. So you could have something called the logo package. And in that logo package, you do blah, 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 and the starting price of that is blah. Okay, and then you can have the website package, and it includes the logo package, the branding, blah blah blah. And so people have a rough idea. So yeah, that's just that. So whatever it is, even if you're a service-based business, you can still productize it. So people are buying X product, and then you have your back-end product. Okay, and this is where all the profit is. Now it's just a numbers game. It is a simple numbers game, what you do now, and you can do these calculations before you even think of setting up your business. And this is the thing, like, these calculations, the reason I wax lyrical about them is because they've helped me like endlessly. Like, there's so many potential business ideas that I haven't done simply because I couldn't get the numbers to work, and there's so many businesses that I've done and they've worked well simply because I've done these numbers. And you have to be really pessimistic. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that this freebie could be, just YouTube videos or whatever, stuff that, is generally helping. But let's say you have a trial, and I don't know, let's say your trial is free and it's a 30-day trial. And then your intro product could be something relatively cheap. It could be, I don't know, £300 a year. Okay. Now remember, again, this is going back to what I said, I think, the other day. If you have it's much better having a payment plan business than a subscription-based business. I don't know what over here. Yeah. So the problem with subscription-based, and by the way, I've got both. So again, everything I say is from with either real experience or hindsight, as in current experience or previous experience. With a subscription-based business, it sucks in terms of it's hard to know how long a customer is going to last. So you could spend all that time and effort and money getting a new customer, and you have no idea how long they're going to last. They could be with you a month, they could be with you 3 months, or they could be with you, for 30 months. You just have no idea. And so I prefer to do payment plan businesses. So when someone joins you, they're basically buying a whole year. So they're either buying, a year's worth of access to your service for 300 quid, or you can break it into 12 monthly payments of, I don't know, whatever. So in fact, I'm just going to use the WAP, because I think this is pretty much I may as well just put my money where my mouth is. So the WAP, the Wealth Action Plan, is this exactly. So if I've got slow internet here, but if we go down, the WAP annual membership is £300 a year, or a monthly membership is basically £30 a month times 12, but it is a 12-month contract if you're paying monthly. So something like that. And so this way, that every time you get a new customer, you've got them for a year, and you can then help that person for as much as you can over that year period. But it really helps with the numbers. So 30-day trial, that, let's say it will be for free. You then have your whoopsie, what's going on? Your, let's say, 300 quid a month, a year product, something really cheap, 30 quid a month or whatever. And then your back end product, that's where the profit will be. That's where it will be. So I don't know, this could just be a one-off thing. It could be something like £2,000, a £2,000 product or service or something like that. Now, this is where you need to then do the maths on what you want. So let's say we're looking for, let's move aside. You want the 5k a month take home, okay? So in order to have 5k a month take home, you're really looking at a business that needs to be doing at least probably 10k a month. 10k a month revenue, 10k a month revenue. So you have VAT after that. So I'm just quickly doing some numbers. 10k a month divided by 1.2 is 8, so 3. Yeah, you could do that. Actually, it's not too bad. So let's just round it up, okay? So let's just say here's your first goal, okay? In order to quit your job, etc., and you want 5k a month take home, you need a business using these products. You're looking for 12 grand a month, 12k per month revenue. So that's total sales per month. Now, when you get rid of the VAT, because if you're doing 12k a month, you'll have to be VAT registered very soon. So all you do is you just do 12,000 divided by 1.2. That gets rid of the VAT, and obviously that's 10 grand. We can do that in your head. So it's 10k per month, post VAT. Now, let's say you have, you could have a whole bunch of costs and stuff, but let's say you're making 10k a month gross profit. There could be some costs to your services, whatever, but it's you'd be pretty safe to take home 5 grand a month, because you'll be leaving a good at least 5 grand a month, or let's say there's 2 grand in costs per month to help run the business, so you're then left with 8. And then if you took out 5k a month, you're still leaving 3 grand a month profit in your business, for a nice cash buffer. So again, I'm always pessimistic. So yeah, I think these are actually really realistic numbers. If your business is similar to this, as I'm putting over here, you're going to have a pretty high margin. So this is another reason why I don't like product-based businesses. The margin is just way lower. So here's the goal. We now need to make 12 grand a month in revenue. Okay? So now the reason why I got into all of this in the first place is because I kept bouncing around the question. Like, when I was really poor or broke, all I wanted was an extra 300 quid a month. And I was like, okay, what can I set up where I'm charging £10 a month? And, how can I get 30 customers? That was it. That's all I wanted. I was like, what can I sell for £10 a month and just get 30 customers? Because back then, an extra 300 quid a month was a massive deal for me, because I was broke. Like, I don't know if anyone here has been UK type broke, but an extra 300 quid a month goes a long way when you're bust. And so, and you need to. So that sort of that line of questioning really does help. What can I sell for £30 a month to and then how what do I need to do to get 30 of them? So instead of 300 quid a year, let's just make this simple, just to make the math simpler. Let's say it's 30 quid a month. That's your product. Okay. Well, the target is, I'm going to ignore the back end product. We'll come to this in a bit. So let's draw a line across this. So you want, 12 grand a month. Well, you simply do 12k divided by 30. So 12, divide that by 30, 400. Okay. So you need 400 people paying you 30 quid a month, and then boom, you've got your 12 grand a month. But here's the other thing. What is your conversion rate? What is the conversion rate between your trial to your intro product? Now, luckily for the WAP, we've got like a pretty high one. It's actually dropping now. We're sort of scaling a bit, but we were operating at a 54% conversion rate, but it's now dropped. We've got a bit more data in, so it's now 40%. But let's just be pessimistic. It's never really been lower than 30%. So let's say your conversion rate over here is 30%. Base almost 1 in 3. So what you then do in terms of your calculator, this is how I do it. So calculator, so you do 400, divide it by 0.3, so that's representing 30%, gives you 1333. So what that means, let's round it up. Let's just round it up. Let's call it 1500. I always add buffer in my numbers. Boom. Okay. So before you know it, or in order to take home 5 grand a month, you need a business that's chucking out 12 grand a month in revenue. And in order to do that, you need 400 people paying you 30 quid a month. And in order to get 400 people paying 30 quid a month, you need 1,500 people to do the trial. Now, you can just blast it and do that all in 1 month if you've got enough ad spend. But most people, as I said, today we're talking about the average person, they won't have enough money to blast it in a month. So then the next thing, you can then break this down and then go, okay, well, how am I going to get 1,500 trialers? And then you need to break it down. Let's say you want to do this over the space of a year. In fact, no. Let's really space this out, because let's say, I mean, hell, if you had a £5,000 pay rise and you're expecting a £5,000 a month pay rise in a job, that's going to take you years, isn't it? Years. So let's say you did business very slowly because you're a busy person, don't have much spare time, and you're new. Let's say you want to do this over 2 years. Okay, so that's 750 per year. So then 750, divide that by 12, 62.5. So let's just call that 63 trialers per month. Now, for this example at the moment, I'm just going to ignore churn, okay? But yeah, 63 trialers per month. So then your sole focus is, right, in 2 years' time, I'm going to hit my target of £5,000 a month take home. But in order to do that, I need to get 63 trialers a month, as long as you're maintaining that 30% conversion rate that we mentioned earlier. And if you get 63 per month, you'll eventually, over the 2 years' time, you'll end up with 400 clients paying you 30 quid a month. And again, I'm ignoring some other things like your yearly rollover rate. So, for example, if you have a client that's been with you for a year, paying 30 quid a month, there will then be a percentage. In fact, if you were to actually draw this out properly, it would actually look a bit like this. 1 second. Sorry, move this around. Come on. Just put it roll over for another 30 quid a month for another year. And then you have something like this. So for those that finish their year, there'll then also be another percentage that basically just become roll over for another year. I mean, I've got subscription or payment plan businesses where I've had students for 4 years plus. I've got a couple of students been with me for about 6 or 7 years. So sometimes, I mean, it may be low. I mean, let's just say it's 20%. Well, that's great. That 20% is just a free client. And then obviously some people will then get your back end product, but we're just going to ignore this for the moment. But does that make sense so far? Before I go any further, I'm just going to have a look at the chat box, wherever that chat box has gone. Where is the chat box gone? Chat. No. Sorry, I've lost my chat box screen. Meeting. Here it is. Does that make sense so far? Any questions? Please pop them in the chat box if you have any questions. No? All good? Cool. Right. So here's where it gets a bit frustrating. So we got our numbers now, 1,500 trialers, get 400 clients, and that will give you a 12 grand a month. And then, by the way, the reason I said the back end profit is all product is all profit is because, let's say your goal should be to hit your target, your 12 grand a month revenue from your core bread and butter clients, as in your intro product, etc. But obviously, a percentage of them will then get your back end product, which will be whatever. So let's say it's relatively low. Let's say it's only 5% of your clients that do your back end product. Well, what's 5% of 400? So 400 times 5%, that's 20. So you then get 20 people paying 2 grand, then all of a sudden that's an extra 40k. So obviously the better you do at the top end of your business, as in populating and filling up the your bread and butter part of your business, the more profit you'll end up just making with just casual, normal, congruent people wanting more. Okay, and that does happen. But here's the thing: this is where a lot of people get lost because of the marketing costs. Now, unfortunately, we are not Virgin. We're not Apple, so we can't do brand marketing. We can't just put a radio advert out there. Or hell, McDonald's. McDonald's can just put that little do. I can't sing. And people know it's McDonald's, and they go, "Oh, I want a McFlurry," or whatever. We can't do that, so we have to do direct response marketing. And what direct response marketing means is you put an ad out there and you track how many sales or opt-ins you get from that ad. And so the first measure that you need to do is, what is your CPL? What is your cost per lead? How much is it costing you to get a new client, to get a new lead? Now, annoyingly, it's quite expensive. Obviously, it depends on the sector. So for the WAP, actually, the WAP is really expensive. So this is like financial education, getting good at business and stuff like that. And it's drowned out. There's like 1 million people in this space. There's everyone from Tony Robbins to hucksters out there. So for me, it's quite expensive. So if you're looking at the WAP is roughly, at the moment, is about £35 CPL. So it's costing me 35 quid to get a single person to do a free 30-day trial. It's nuts. However, so let's just use these stats here for 30%. So in this case, let's say 30% come through. If you can then work out your CPA, your cost per acquisition, as in how much does it cost you to get a new customer. And the way you work that out is, let's say you're doing 1,500, so you do 1,500. I'll get the actual calculator up here so you can see. So first of all, your ad spend will be 1,500 times 35. Times 35. So it's 52 grand in ad spend. Don't worry, I know that's a scary number, but we'll talk about that in a sec. So that's total ad spend. But then you've got 400 clients from that, so you divide that by 400. There we go. So it's costing you £131.25p. Now, these numbers are pretty... people are annotating on the board. I'm just going to clear all annotating. There we go. So this isn't the best looking in funnel, so to speak, but it's still profitable. So basically, you're spending £131 to get someone that's going to pay you £30 a month, which is 30 times 12 is 360. Yeah, 360. So it works. So it's profitable. If you have a marketing system like this, and you spend 131 quid to get a £360 customer, you're going to do that all day long. And guess what? That is all I do all day long. That's pretty much the only way I grow my businesses, through paid ads. And the reason that I don't dick around with word of mouth and stuff like that is that it's good. It's getting it, but you can't scale it. You can't scale word of mouth unless you have like a viral product or a viral marketing thing. It's just impossible. Well, not impossible. It's just highly unlikely. Whereas with ads, you can control exactly what you want. So, sorry, people are still doodling. Is there a way I can make people disable annotations? Here we go. Done. So, so in this case, that's pretty cool. And then, by the way, you've then also got another CPA for your back-end product, which is this one down here. And so for the same ad spend, so you still do 52.5k. 52.5, divide that by I guess the maths is a bit different here, because that's gonna ignore me. So this is remember, bread and butter. This is all you want. So now you're probably thinking, well, Siam, the average person doesn't have 52.5 grand just laying around to waste or risk on ad spend. But here's the thing. It's all about ad velocity. ad velocity. Again, I've spoken about this a lot, but it's just worth covering again. So with something like okay, it's different with a free trial. Let's use My Fairy Pen Pal. So that's probably a better example. My Fairy Pen Pal. So this is a side hustle business I run with my wife. And guess what? It's a payment plan, or no, this is actually a subscription-based business where we send Aria, the fairy, sends a letter and a little pack to a little girl every 2 weeks. It's it's great, and you get loads of gifts and stuff like that. So, My Fairy Pen Pal. Now, the trial with this is actually a little bit different. It's not a freebie. It's if I try and find the 8-week, here we go. Here's the landing page. 8-week trial. Basically, they get a 2-month trial. Wait a minute, I think it is. Yeah, 8 weeks, yeah, so a 2-month trial for £15. And so that works out to £3.74 a fortnight, blah, blah, blah. Always break down costs, because 15 quid is, yeah, but when you look at, in the price, X amount of cups of coffee per week or whatever. I mean, some parents probably spend £3.74 on a magazine every fortnight, so for their kids. So, yeah, so it's not expensive. And so what happens is, whenever we get a new trialer, we get £15. And when I talk about ad velocity, so if you had, it's all about your lag, okay? So if you had a 12-month lag, in this case, wait, one second, let's say you had £1,000, okay, in marketing. So you had a pot of £1,000. Now, if you had a 12-month lag, that means that you put the £1,000 in marketing, and 12 months later, you get that £1,000 back. Now, let's assume that you're running a break-even marketing funnel here. So with these numbers, it's not break-even. This is actually profitable, because basically, for every £131 you put in, you're getting 360 quid back. So this is profitable. But let's just say this is really bad, really, really bad, and your CPA was actually 360 quid. So basically, what this means is for every pound you put in, you get £1 back. But believe it or not, a break-even marketing system is still wildly profitable in the long run. Wildly profitable. Why? Well, it's costing you nothing to get new customers. And guess what? At the end of the year, you're going to have people automatically rolling over, well, not automatically, but naturally rolling over, and some people get your back-end product. So if you just keep doing that, then you're going to become rather darn wealthy over a period of years. So 12-month lag, your £1,000, you'll get that back. What if your marketing system had a 6-month lag? Well, guess what? With the same pot of money, you've effectively got £2,000 in ad spend. Because you get that £1,000 back in 6 months, you pop it in again, 6 months back, you get another. So you've effectively spent £2,000 a year in ad spend, even though you only had £1,000. What if it was 3 months? So this means you can use, every 3 months, the money comes back, you pop it back in, you've now got a £4,000 ad spend. Oops. And if it's 1 month, whoa, God, oh my God, come on, come back. 1 month lag. Well, guess what? A £1,000 pot of money can generate. You can effectively do £12,000 a year in ad spend. If that makes sense. So when you look at this £52,500 ad spend, it's not that scary, because if you have something with sort of a 30-day trial, what's the lag going to be? Well, if you get, let's say a trialer, you get them 30 days later, they then become a customer, if they are going to become a customer. So you've got a 1 month lag. Let's just say it's a 2 month lag. Let's just be, some people don't buy straight away. They may have to think about it. So let's say you've got a 2 month lag. So this means you can use it 6 times. So basically, you can have, So you basically divide it by 6. So if you had a 2 month lag, you can just take that 52.5k and divide it by 6. There we go. Boom. So you can actually have a marketing pot of about £8,750, and over the period of a year, you would have just used that same amount of money and generated roughly 52.5 grand worth of ad spend, not revenue or profit, just ad spend. So this is why this number up here doesn't really matter. So that's a bit of a side tangent. Does that make sense so far? Hopefully, yes, no. Please pop something in the chat box, because I have no idea whether you can even hear me. Right, so that. Okay. Righty-ho. Just going to move this over here. Cool, makes sense, nice. Yeah, so any questions so far? Because I can go in more in depth, but I think I'll probably end up losing some people here. So, okay, let's do an example where the business doesn't work. Okay. So let's say you have, I don't know, like some sort of trial type thing. You've got your product, and ignoring the back end stuff. And let's just say you had a bad conversion rate. Okay, so you know, for those that do your trial, only 10% became a client. Then you can just do some quick numbers. So I don't know, let's say you had I don't know, let's just say 100 trialers. That means you get 10 people. That means you're then generating 300 quid a month. Okay, but how much does it cost to get your 100 trialers? Let's say again let's use 35 quid. So what this means is you've spent £3,500 in marketing to get 100 trialers and 10 clients. But then we need to work out the CPL. So what is the CPL? So £35. We worked that out already. And what is the CPA? So it's that divided by that. So divided by 10. So it's 350. So this is interesting. You're now spending £350 to get a customer that pays you, well, you may think, oh, that's all right, it's just a little bit better than break even, but it's not. Because £30 a month times 12 is 360, but you've got to get rid of the VAT. Divide that by 1.2, all of a sudden, so £30 a month actually works out to 300 quid a year after the VAT. So in this case, something's wrong here, because you're spending £350 to get a customer, but that customer's only paying you £300 a year after the VAT, and that's assuming that this customer doesn't have any costs that come along with servicing that client. Like if you're sending him some stuff through the post or sending gifts and stuff like that, the profit from that customer is going to drop. So this is where you then enter the realms of CRO, conversion rate optimization. And again, this is basically all I do in business. I do adverts, I analyze the numbers, and then I just try and do things to make the numbers better. So we've established already that with this sort of setup, you're not going to make any money. And I've seen too many people setting up businesses, and I've sat with them in the pub or in a restaurant or a coffee shop and gone, hey, something doesn't seem right. And I just go through these simple numbers and go, your business doesn't work, mate. And they're like, well, does it? And yeah, and you just show them the numbers, and they're like, oh yeah, I couldn't quite work out why I was losing money, but now it makes sense. This is why these little mental gymnastics is worth doing, and it's not hard. It really isn't. So now we're in the exercise of how do I actually make this work? Because this is a losing business here. You're just going to bleed money. In fact, the more customers you get, the bigger you get, the more money you're bleeding. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because you could then, and by the way, most businesses that you see that go and raise, £250,000 or whatever, they're actually businesses very much like this, where they're massively bleeding cash, and so they go out and get a couple £100,000 to then go out and buy their customer base, and then eventually they'll end up with a big, revenue stream, and then eventually it'll work. But yeah, but for the average person, this is not, that's not the route you're going to take. So the easiest, you've got a couple of metrics here. So the thing that I like to tweak is your conversion rate. So obviously only 10% are becoming clients. So you're obviously doing something wrong if only 10% of your trialers are becoming clients. So how can you do something better? Can you tweak this a little bit? So what if you did this to, got it to 15%? Now let's do the numbers. So now, if it's 15%, you now got 15 clients. So $3,500, divide that by 15. Sorry, I've done the wrong. 3.5 divided by 15. Okay, that's much better. Because now, guess what? Your CPA is dropped down to £233. And remember, this is actually a £300 gross. Now it's much better. Okay, well, you can. So basically, your break-even point is probably going to be about 12%. So the first thing is that, okay, we just need to at least get. Let's actually work this out. So let's just get rid of some of these. Let's say you got it to 12%. So 12%. You now have 12 clients here, so 3.5, divide that by 12, 291, yeah, so basically you're getting it to 291. So basically, with a bit of leeway here, your conversion rate, if you got your conversion rate of 12%, your whole business is break even at the front end. Remember, at the end of the year, some people will naturally roll over. So that's one thing you could do, tweaking the conversion rate over here. The other thing you could do is just tweak the price. Can you just make this a little bit more expensive? Yes, the conversion rate may drop a little bit, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the conversion rate doesn't do anything. It stays exactly where it is. Because if you move it from £30 a month to, say, £35 a month, that's a massive change for you, but not much for the client. So it's still effectively, the client doesn't really make much of a difference. Even though, 5 divided by 30, that's a 16.6% uplift price hike. It sort of goes under the radar. But now let's do the numbers. So before this was break even, you're still getting 12 clients. But what is 35 times 12 minus the VAT? Boom. Instead of a £300 a month, 300 quid a year profit client, it's now gone up to 350. And guess what? You're still paying 291 per client. So all of a sudden, you now made this a lot more profitable. So tweaking the conversion rate, tweaking the prices is one thing. And then the other thing you can then tweak is your adverts. Like, okay, I'm spending £35 per lead here. Surely I can get this down. Again, if you can get this down to, say, £30 per lead, that's an even better saving. Because guess what? 30 times, so now you're spending £3,000 in ad spend as opposed to 3.5. And then what is your CPL? So your CPL is £30. What's your CPA? Well, 3,000. Divide that by 12. Holy shit. My CPA is now 250, and I'm now getting a customer that's worth 350. So sometimes you don't need to tweak one thing. Sometimes you have to tweak all of them. And you only need to do little tweaks. Tiny, like all we've done here is gone from 10% to 12%. Which I know is a 20% uplift, but a 20% uplift in metrics like this is nothing. You've upped it by £5 a month, and you just reduce your CPL by £5. And all of a sudden, you're now spending 250 quid to get a 350 quid client. This is how you make money. Then it's a case of putting every spare penny you have into marketing. And then you can work things out. It's like, okay, well, I've got a bit of spare money now. I'm just going to spend, £5,000 a month in ad spend. Well, you now know that £5,000 a month is gonna. You can then you can actually start controlling and like I know exactly how much my business. Or let's take the WAP. I know exactly how much money I'm gonna make at the end of the year for the WAP, simply because I know how much money I'm gonna spend on ad spend. It's simple. Yet there's so many business owners out there that haven't got a clue. It's like, what will you end up with, by the end of this year? And then they'll have to pluck a figure out their arse. But I actually know, like plus or minus, not much. So in this case, so now we've got this, you've tweaked it a bit, and once you've tweaked it a bit and you're happy with it, you go, okay, you then start doing some tests. So you put £5,000 in, and let's say you've still got 12%, so you've got a £30 CPL. So you do, let's get the calculator, so you do 5, divide that by 30, so you've got 166 trialers, 12% conversion rate is, so I'll just use, it's quicker in my calculator here, times 0.12, you've now got 19.92, let's round it down, call it 19 clients, so 19 clients times, you're getting £350 a year profit, so 19 times 350, boom. So straight away, that's giving you £6,650 per year. And then, so basically, for every £5,000 you put in, you're getting 6,650 back out. 6,650, divide that by £5,000. Yeah. So what this means is for every £1 you put in at the top of your marketing, you're getting back £1.33. Now, who wouldn't do that all day long? Who wouldn't then put as much money as you can in as possible? And the thing is, if you have a trial which actually is paid, it's so much easier. Oh man, it's horrendously easier. As in, it's almost too easy. So My Fairy Pen Pal, every time we get a new lead, we're actually getting money back. So this is why I have to stress, if you're not in the WAP, I highly recommend just doing the 30-day trial. Honestly, it's free for first thing. And when you look at the portal, if you go to the WAP map, you'll have access to the free trial videos. Go into the free trial videos and free trial videos. My internet's a bit slow. And here are all the videos, but scroll right down to the bottom and you go live WAP experiment, setting up a brand new business using everything that, and this part 1 to part 15 is setting up My Fairy Pen Pal. Literally from actually sourcing everything, or selling first, sourcing second, and costing it all up and getting it all out there. And and the marketing was so easy because we actually got money back. But yeah, definitely check out those videos. Any questions? It's been like an hour, so we've got to start calling it a day now. I could talk forever. Alex has said, this is actually a great example of how running a bigger business is harder as opposed to a smaller one. This funnel will be profitable for a smaller business, which doesn't have to be VAT-regged, and unprofitable for a larger one. Yeah, true. Well, no, you can still use it. It depends on your definition of a larger business. Technically, I think was an SME, a small to medium enterprise, is I think businesses up to 1,000 staff. So 1,000 staff business is still pretty big in my opinion. But yeah, us mere mortals, we're really, I'm talking about nano businesses. Like if you're making 20 grand a month in your business, it's still a nano business. Nano, it really is. So however, you don't need to have a big business. Hell, you don't need like a proper SME. Like, you just need a nano business and your life will change. Literally, you just need one nano business that chucks out 12 grand a month in revenue. You take home 5 grand a month. Remember, take home. That will change your life like massively. And then you can start working on growing this a bit more. And then, or maybe having a bunch of different businesses. And touch wood, I've been lucky, or not lucky. In fact, I create my own luck. During lockdown in 2020, everyone got shafted, basically. And for me, it was like a mixed bag. I had 3 businesses that are just bleeding money hand over fist, which is just ridiculous, because we were forced to be shut. I've got 3 businesses that are doing all right. But then I've got 3 businesses that are doing, really well. So it's a mixed bag. But these 3 businesses, they're not like massive businesses. They're all businesses that do between sort of 100 to, just trying to think, between, on the top end, one of the businesses doing about 700 grand a year profit, but most of the businesses, in fact, not even 100 grand, so some of them are doing between 50 to 700k a year. And so all you need is a little basket of business, like nano businesses that are doing, hell, even if every business was doing 50k a year profit, if you had 6 of them, it's still 300 grand a year as a group. So this is why sometimes it's much better really nailing the nano business world. And I haven't nailed the nano business world, but I've got a pretty darn good grip of it. Like I said, with My Fairy Pen Pal, the challenge was to set up a business that I had no clue about, no experience, nothing. And it's pretty safe to say that I've got no experience with fairies. And in the space of 1 year, we took this from scratch to 4.5 grand a month profit. We hit I think it was £450 a month profit in the first 2 months, and then 4 and a bit grand profit by the end of year 1. But here's the thing. We could have stayed as a tiny lifestyle boutique. Mind you, it still is a boutique business, but this was a one-man band originally because it was my wife. So this is where you have we'll end it here actually, because we got Fairy, so My Fairy Pen Pal, to the point where it was making 4.5 grand a month profit. Or it was different. So it was between 4 to 4.5k a month profit. But it was just Ellie, my wife. And Ellie didn't have that much time because we got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, so that's pretty time intensive. And I'm running my business, so it was pretty time intensive. So you now have a choice. You can either stay as a tiny one-man band business or one-woman band business, but taking home lovely profits, or you reinvest the profits to then grow the business. So what did we do? We then converted that business into 2 helpers. So now Ellie's got 2 full-time members of staff who are literally in the annex right now working, both spending they do have arms. 1 second. So they're both spending 40 hours a week. So basically there's 80 hours a week invested into the business, even if Ellie doesn't do any work. Obviously Ellie's doing work, but she's not doing 40 hours a week. I think she can probably max, with the childcare, especially half term, it's ridiculous. She's probably doing 15 hours a week. So yeah, she's got a pretty chilled out life now because she's taught and trained the helpers what to do, the colleagues what to do, and these 2 members of staff are running the business. Now Ellie can now work on growing the business and writing more fairy stories and stuff like that. So we're now in this transition period where the business doesn't make any profit. Well, it's probably making about 500 quid profit. Wait a minute, what was their salaries? So the salaries it's about, what was it, 14, so cheap salaries for the moment. So I think it's 1400 times 2, so it's 2800 plus it. Yeah, so call it 3 grand a month in costs. Yeah, so I guess MFP is still chucking out between 1,000 to 1,500 quid a month profit. But Ellie's not taking any money from this. Any profit left in the business, we're just chucking it back into adverts. Why wouldn't you when the funnel works? Right, let's leave that at the end of the content. Any questions? Say it now or forever hold your peace. George Burnsy, who won the golf? We haven't done it yet. So the golf bet is basically I have 10 attempts. So I have to beat him within 10 rounds of the first time that we play. So we haven't even played together yet. But I'm aiming to destroy him in the first round and get my £1,000. Jamie, only just tuning in. Unfortunately, got caught up with something. Yes, this is recorded. Let's double check. Yep, it is being recorded. Cool. Right, this will be up on my YouTube later today. And I will see you soon. Toodles. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye.